You're watching Zoo Tours, the channel that takes you on a virtual field trip to the zoo. One of the biggest reasons people go to the zoo is to connect with nature that's native to the most exotic places in the world. But some of my favorite zoo exhibits are ones that focus on local wildlife. Mission Everglades was a $33 million permanent addition made to encourage residents as well as out-of-towners to connect with over 25 species of wildlife that live in a Florida resident's own backyard. Now, before we hop on a fan boat through 5 sections of one of the world's largest wetlands, I want to get the comments going with this question of the episode, and I want you to let us know, what is your favorite local wildlife-focused exhibit? Mission Everglades is just inside of the zoo walls, but technically it actually begins just outside of them. Phase 1 developed a new entry plaza with an upgraded ticketing office. And before you even have to hand in your ticket, you're treated to the colors, sounds, and smells of the American flamingo. I'm pretty sure this is the first and only time we've seen an animal exhibit that's accessible prior to the turnstiles. When you scan that ticket, this path will take you right up to a pier. Yes, it's an animal exhibit, but I want you to avoid this at all costs for now. From the entrance, you're going to want to go straight until you reach this colorful sign. That way you can avoid backtracking. Section number 1 is the Mangrove Forest. Our first actual exhibit was home to songbirds. Whoever kicked them out was a smart person. I love them, but the current residents show how animals can work together, even if they don't mean to. Gopher tortoises are a keystone species. Their burrows provide homes for approximately 350 other kinds of animals: mammals, reptiles, insects, and birds, like the burrowing owl. I'll admit, I had no idea they even lived in Florida until this day. Unlike a lot of birds, they prefer open prairies with little to no trees, like golf courses, agriculture fields, and apparently a lot of airports. While many animals are struggling with losing their habitats in Florida, like wetlands, it's actually just increasing places for this death stare bird to live. One of the Mission Everglades' missions is getting guests into birding. The Birder's Paradise interpretive area teaches you the best ways to go bird watching by exploring different habitats during different seasons and other ways to make the most out of this hobby. Minus the different habitats part, you can pretty much do all that at the Pelican Pier, the thing I told you not to look at earlier. We have a lot more exciting features up ahead, but there's always something so calming about waterfowl lagoons, especially when it's filled with actual native wildlife. Over 20 species are signed, but what I was really looking for was the wood stork that we just saw in a South America themed episode, along with the American white pelican. Unlike the brown pelican that stays year-round, adult white pelicans only pay Florida a visit during the fall and winter and migrate and breed in Canada. The only populations that truly stay put are in small areas in Texas and Mexico. The next beast is probably the best way to describe it, is rarely seen on land. If you want the full Zoo Miami experience, you don't want them to be on land. So it's best to just continue on through the actual entrance of the Sawgrass Marsh. Before you're drawn to this particular beast, if you have kids, they might be more interested in the slide that goes right through the otter pool. Sadly, they were off display. Some of you know I have to feature every major species in an exhibit and was about to give up, until something 10 feet away dropped our jaws. The otter slide was a bust, but a nearly 20-foot long tube shoots across crocodile-infested waters. Nope, not an alligator, the American crocodile. Depending on the age and gender, they can be nearly 2 times heavier than a gator. Females generally weigh 400 pounds, but bulls can hit up to over 1,000 pounds. They're also far more aggressive, and even though this guy or gal has probably been here for a while, they still haven't figured out that they can't get through glass. So there's no better or safer way to make friends with a 10-foot long crocodilian and their 70 teeth. If you want to be here when this happens, the crocodile hung out by the tube when the sun shone the brightest. So what time might that be? Well, obviously it varies, since these shots were filmed around 5 p.m. day 1 and first thing in the morning on day 2. Crocodile tunnels are cool and all, but to tell you the truth, this video would not have been made if our search for the Florida Panther wasn't successful, the last cougar on the East Coast. They once roamed the entire southeast region, but their habitat has been destroyed or developed by and for us, and only 200 or so are left in the southern Florida wilds. experts determined that the Florida panther is not their own subspecies anymore and are simply classified as the more common North American cougar, and officially were taken off the IUCN's endangered species list. A little insulting to basically say you're no longer unique, but fortunately they still are protected as if they're endangered. You're looking at Mahala. She was rescued in 2014 after her mother was hit by a car near Naples. The few Florida panthers that I've seen were very active, but like her wild brethrens, she is very shy. So from our experience, if you want to get any sort of movement from her, we recommend that you pay her a visit between 3 to 5 p.m. Florida exhibits are usually decked out like someone's fishing shed, except most fishing sheds probably aren't lined with terrariums. The green water snake in the pine rockland tank, Florida pine snake in the cypress forest, green basilisk in the prairie, and a couple of other no-shows. On this one foggy November morning, thanks to mist machines, we came to say, please be out, to the black bears. While experts felt the need to take away the Florida panther's status as a more unique animal, Florida black bears are still very much a thing. They're found in several pockets all over the state and expand into Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. Oh, by the way, Laurel and Libby are not Florida black bears. I don't know their exact subspecies, but I do know they were born at a zoo in Illinois. If they're not coming near you like you have a pot of honey, there is a simulated tree and tree trunk that can bring you even further into the exhibit for a closer experience. This exhibit was designed to rotate the bears and the cats. We didn't see the switch, but there is a scratch like a bear tree post by the panther, and right after the bears is something I wish every zoo had for every species. An extensive overview of the Florida panther. You can read general info, the cat's historic range, how it became a symbol to the state, and their struggles and what people are doing to save them. If you are a regular to your local zoo, there's probably one animal that never shows. It took me 20 years to see my local zoo's gray foxes 3 times. In Miami, it only took me a few seconds. When it comes to them, zoos like to talk about 2 things: how they look different from red foxes and their love for the high ground. There are many situational exceptions to this rule, but it's generally taught that grays are one of 3 wild canids equipped with cat software. In other words, they're really good at climbing trees. They have sharp, semi-retractable claws and rotating wrists that help them scale a tree trunk going straight up and straight down. Some say they'll even climb 70 feet to den, look for a meal, or try not to become a meal. I imagine their tail helps out with the balance, and if anyone knows what happened to theirs, we'd all appreciate it. If you don't have any luck with these sly foxes, they're probably not in a tree, but you are allowed to look inside one of their 2 dens. The Pine Rocklands section becomes the Cypress Swamp, Florida and the swamp, which means we are really due for some American alligators. When all of this opened, a spokesperson said they were excited to allow guests to see the difference between gators and crocs. You just have to do it from a distance. I've seen countless alligator displays, but this one was really interesting. No matter which way you walk, you're pretty much always surrounded by hundreds of teeth. But the best and bravest path is the totally secure rope bridge that goes right over the water. And you can call me crazy if you want, but those silhouettes look like the different types of crocodilians. Gators have one of the greatest conservation success stories ever, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but I wish I would have seen a little more of that, like they did with the panther. However, not many zoos have an actual representative from the National Park Service stationed to teach zoo guests about their wildlife in their local area and all of the ways and places that you can explore the actual Everglades. Florida and gators, it's as good as a combo as zoo tours and wild and magical world of Florida. But you could also argue this state best fits with the bald eagle. Florida has one of the highest concentrations of freedom birds in the lower 48 states. They have a conservation success story of their very own, but their display wants you to focus on their nest, not the one that's in here. The zoo worked with the Wildlife Rescue of Dade County to build an artificial nest for a pair of wild bald eagles in an undisclosed location. So how are you supposed to see the nest? The zoo has a QR code that not only lets you see the live cam, you can learn about these locally famous birds that live there. In case you wanted to watch it, here's one more shot of the QR code, or you can just use the link in the comments. The final section is the Hardwood Hammock. According to my YouTube analytics, 70% of you would have to break what's clearly a pretty big roll just to be able to see one of the greatest features ever added to a treehouse. This is, or was, another rotational habitat, and I felt lucky to finally see a fully awake bobcat. you should be looking at Spot and Knot that came from a conservation center in Arizona. Apparently people thought it was a good idea to take them from their mother and try to keep them as pets. That didn't work out, and even with those powerful claws, their wild instincts went bye-bye, and they relied on us for help and affection. Robert cats are the most abundant wild cat in the United States, roaming nearly every one of the 48 contiguous states, so they definitely know how to live in and around human civilization. But of course, that doesn't mean we should try to be their personal friends. That was the channel's first Bobcat feature. Maybe, I have a lot of these. And they at least used to have a rotation going on with the channel's first Raccoon. Oh no, a trash puppy that's walking around during the daytime. Everyone run. It probably has some sort of disease. First of all, nearly everything you've seen so far is nocturnal, and raccoons aren't actually strictly nocturnal. If you see this in the wild, chances are that it's probably just a mother foraging for food for her and her babies. The other big myth that people think is they need to wash their food before eating it. The best known example of this is the really sad but also pretty funny video of a raccoon putting cotton candy in water and watching it dissolve. The back half of their scientific name means washer in Latin. It's widely believed they're not intentionally cleaning their food. Wetting their skin and their paws helps increase nerve responses, giving them more hands-on information of what they're about to eat. Where do you think you're going? The mission's not over yet. We still haven't gotten lost on the Lost Man's River ride, where, as the zoo says, where entertainment and education meet. This attraction is a slow-moving faux fan boat ride that flows gently through the heart of the Everglades. The concept is meant to immerse you in the animal and human world of Florida. There's a bait and tackle shop, someone's really creepy shed, boat storage, and even a gas station. But you're probably here for the animals, and part of the experience is getting a different view of 5 of the exhibits. I would have liked to have shown you a full POV of the ride, but the only thing that we really saw was an invasive lizard and the wing of an eagle. It may not be as exciting as a fan boat ride with Mama Boucher, but Zoo Miami is huge, and your feet and your knees might hurt. So if you save the Lost Man's River for last, it's kind of like a spa for people who like boats or those who had a really long day with their family. So was it worth the $5 extra, even without really seeing anything? Yes, it was. Florida's Everglades is a one-of-a-kind network of natural resources that makes up the largest subtropical wilderness in the United States and the last remaining refuge to several endangered species. 2,300 square miles of protected areas are fit into 4.5 acres of fun, education, and inspiration to appreciate wildlife that might be in your backyard. And that'll do it for another episode of Florida's greatest traditional zoo. So until next time, please stay wild, stay tuned, and thank you for watching Zoo Tours.